Disclaimer.
The thoughts and opinions expressed by our guests are not necessarily the views of Tash, Becky, or Be Your Best You podcast.
Hey there, lovely people. Welcome to Be Your Best You with Tash and Becky, your go-to hangout for all things spiritual, subconscious, and downright magical. We're here to sprinkle a little mystical wisdom into your everyday life and help you level up your reality.
Picture this as your cosmic coffee date, where we chat about the unseen world, blend in some psychology vibes, and stir up the subconscious magic. Get ready to be the queen of your own reality, live a life that lights you up, and have a blast doing it.
So grab your latte or your tea and let's dive into another episode of Be Your Best You, where the mystical meets the mundane and your best life awaits.
Cheers to creating magic together.
Let's do this.
Hey guys, can we ask you a favour? Can we ask, if you haven't already, please make sure that you're following us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you can get updated with all the latest episodes every week when they come out. You never know, it might just be the thing that you need to hear at that time. Also, don't forget you can watch us on YouTube, so make sure you head over there and subscribe to us there.
And share with all your friends.
Thanks, guys. Hi, welcome back to another episode of Be Your Best You with Tash.
And Becky, the guest edition.
Today we have on the show Christina Popovich, and she is a hypnotherapist, past life regressionist, timeline therapist, and spiritual teacher and author. So we have an awesome conversation about, really, quite honestly, the power of hypnotherapy and, most importantly, accessing the subconscious mind to really move you forward in your healing journey in life, to break those patterns and all the unconscious, subconscious programming and patterns and energetic imprints that are actually stopping you right now from doing things that you really want to do. And you're sat there thinking, where is this coming from? I've looked at my childhood trauma, just not there. And it's kind of like we're just diving deeper into how past lives specifically, really, in this episode, are really needing to be looked at more if you want to take that extra step forward, even if you don't believe in them.
Oh, yeah. And I think everybody's going to want to book an appointment to see a hypnotherapist after this show.
Hope you enjoy, guys. Today we have on the show Christina Popovich. Welcome, Christina.
Hi, Christina.
Hi, thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, we're so excited to talk to you. Thank you for coming on. So, before we dive in, could you just explain to everyone a little bit about who you are and what it is that you kind of do in your work?
Mm-hmm. So I'm a therapist, hypnotherapist, NLP master practitioner. I do timeline therapy mostly, which is an advanced NLP technique. Timeline therapy it's so versatile. It goes into so many different directions of healing. It can go into past lives, generational trauma, womb trauma, childhood trauma, really everything. So I love timeline therapy. I also am a holistic therapist. So I started with Reiki. I do energy healing. I've held workshop for the past maybe 15 years, I think, 13, 15 years on self-development and metaphysics. So I've started really in the holistic field, really in the spiritual field more. And then I started to dive more into the therapies world, studying the unconscious, the subconscious, the consciousness, mind, and so on.
Amazing.
Wow.
It's so aligned with obviously what we talk about on the podcast and the work that I do as well. So I'm so excited to see how you do your work, because timeline therapy is, like, as you said, it's like it's an NLP technique, isn't it? So I do regression, which I think that they're kind of one and the same, aren't they? But I guess they're just done in slightly different ways. So I'm really curious to hear, can you tell us a little bit more about timeline therapy, how you do it, and then how it works, and we can kind of just go from there.
Yeah, so timeline therapy also does regression. So it can do regression in childhoods, in past lives, in generational timelines, but we also do progression. So you can also do progressions. So going into the future, planting certain ideas, certain goals, for example, in the future, like, manifestation. So timeline therapy does that as well. I also do regression just in past lives. So like past life regression, I do it in a completely different way than timeline therapy. So for that one, you have to lie down, be in a deeper state of consciousness and so on. It's a whole journey. But timeline therapy is very to the point, very precise. You don't even need to lie down. You just, sit like this on a chair, on a couch, wherever. You close your eyes. Most of my clients wear blindfolds so that they can concentrate better, that the light doesn't bother them. And then we talk and we talk and we talk to their unconscious minds, and they give me feedback. And it's really straight to the point, very effective, very efficient. That's what I love about it.
Yeah, amazing.
Wow.
And so you don't know, because you said you do the womb healing, you can go to a past life, you can go into kind of childhood trauma. So is that just where their unconscious mind leads them, or do you lead them to a specific thing, or is it kind of just let's see where we end up going?
So it's kind of a two-way thing. They give me the feedback. I ask questions. When they are in that kind of consciousness state where their unconscious mind is more open, more receptive, because we obviously go through an induction process. As a hypnotherapist, the induction process, so that they can, actually communicate with their subconscious and their unconscious. So I ask them, okay, let's tell me yes or no, for example. Is this from here or here? Yes or no? Yes or no? And then they give me the answers straight away. So I told them in less than 3 to 4 seconds, because if they give me the answer right away, the conscious mind doesn't have time to come into play. So literally, they're not thinking the question, they're not thinking the answer. If I tell you apples or pears, the first answer, red or blue, the first answer, yes or no, first answer. So if you give me the answer right away in less than 3 to 4 seconds, that's the answer from your subconscious and your unconscious. So that's what I base the timeline therapy on when I guide them. And then based on their answers, I say, now allow, your unconscious to take you to that place, feel yourself being pulled. There's a whole process. And then they tell me, okay, so I feel this is it. This is the point. Then I say, what do you see here? What do you feel here? So it's all based on what they feel, on their intuition, also on the images that present themselves to them.
That's so important, isn't it? We've spoken about the imagination a lot, haven't we? And how important it is, and how people have lost their sense of imagination as they get older. And we need to remember to come back to that, don't we?
Yes, exactly. So I think, we were talking a little bit earlier before the podcast, that this works even for people who don't believe in past lives, let's say, because the mind presents their trauma in a story timeline, basically, and it presents itself in images. So it shows those specific images like a story, the past lives, right? And even if they don't believe in their past lives, it can still help them heal the trauma through their unconscious mind, presenting it through the story type thing.
Yes. Yeah, because I've found that, I've done past life regressions for people who are really, really skeptical and walk in and say, I don't believe in past lives. And yet they have this whole experience and they still walk out and they're like, I still don't know whether that's real or not. And I'm like, that's absolutely fine. But has it helped you? And without a doubt, they all say yes, because our mind loves pictures and stories. That's how we understand things, isn't it? It's how we make sense of the world.
Exactly. So as you were saying about imagination, that is indeed important in this process. Even for people who don't have a really vivid imagination, they still see things. So it does work, even if you have a vivid imagination or not, they're surprised. At the end of the sessions, they tell me, I had no idea I would see this. They're just like really surprised, really shocked sometimes. I had actually a really interesting case where I had this man who changed his voice, like in the sense that it was spontaneous. Like he had the voice of a baby. It was a very specific case where he regressed as a baby and his voice changed. It was the first time I've experienced that. It was really freaky. It just shows, how powerful the unconscious mind is when you access it. It was very interesting.
I've had that as well. Mine actually was a lady, but she became, like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, and she started speaking in that way. And then I had another one who, she had a stutter as a child, doesn't have a stutter as an adult, when we regressed her back and she went back to that age, she began stuttering again.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so
exactly.
powerful.
It's wow. It's just when people change their voice like that, and they don't pretend. It's not like they're trying. They don't, and they have no recollection sometimes that their voice changed.
Mm.
It's wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So with regards then, seeing as we're talking about past lives, what do you think, in your opinion, and the kind of the the experience that you've had working with people, how have you seen that can actually help people? Because I think a lot of people, they want to have past life regressions because they're interested, and they're like, was I a queen in a past life? Was I Cleopatra? All of that. So there is a certain aspect of that, isn't there? But obviously we know, in our line of work, that it's such powerful healing. In your experience, what do you think that you can get from past life regressions?
Well, it can definitely heal trauma that is unresolved and doesn't really come from this lifetime, because sometimes people, they have certain things that happen to them and they don't really understand why they happen. And it's like, well, I had a good childhood, not really, no bad relationships with my mom or my dad, or, whoever in the family. So they don't really have this point, in this lifetime that would show them, why certain things happen. And even when we go into regression, the unconscious mind says it's not from this lifetime. So then we ask, where is it from? And we ask, is it from before this lifetime? And a lot of the time it says yes. And actually, I think in 80% of the cases when I do timeline therapy, the issue is not rooted in this lifetime, which is very interesting, because many people think they have childhood trauma, which they do. We all have some kind of trauma from our childhood. Even as adults, we can actually develop trauma as adults as well. It's not necessarily in our childhoods, right? But the thing is that whatever happens to us in this lifetime or in our childhood, it is based on an energy that we have carried with us from before our incarnation, from the womb or before the womb. Sometimes it is timelines and a lot of timelines and lifetimes back, So it's not just one or two timelines. It's like a lot of timelines back, like way back. So we go as far as needed. So with timeline therapy, we always search for the root event. That's where we heal. So the very first point where this energy started. And of course, that trauma works. It's a bit like a domino effect. It's a bit like a snowball. So if you have this like kind of trauma in your unconscious, in your consciousness, wherever it comes from, it kind of branches out into, thoughts and emotions that basically recreate that pattern, recreate that trauma, and it reinforces it. And it grows and grows like a snowball. It's the same thing with past lives, basically. So something might have happened in our past lives. It was unresolved. It stayed in our consciousness. And, in our other incarnations that followed, it just grew and grew and grew and repeated itself. And then here we are in this lifetime, and we have certain experiences in our childhood, in our adulthood, that we don't know where they come from, why they happened. They happen for a reason, because we carried with us this imprint. It's like an energetic imprint in our consciousness.
Wow.
Yeah. And I think that, and this is having these behavior patterns, and you think, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And, people know about childhood trauma now, and they'll be scanning through their child and they'll just be thinking, I don't know why.
Yeah.
And you don't think about the past lives,
No.
and because it's not tangible, and because obviously it's still a bit out there, isn't it? But we're missing a whole opportunity to heal these and grow and expand our consciousness, because we're not looking back to that.
Because a lot of people, don't they feel shame in this life because they are looking back for trauma and they haven't got any, and that then shames them. But to know this whole other thing is available, that's so huge, isn't it, as well,
Exactly. And I think I need to touch a little bit on the subject of karma, because when I said about this energetic imprint, this baggage really that we carry with us, we could call this karma. We all have this kind of karma. And, when people think of karma, they usually think of, oh, I did something bad and then now I'm getting punished, something like that. But it's not really necessarily that. It's not that you did something wrong. Sometimes, I've seen tons of cases, and also my own past lives that I've I've seen, sometimes some people wronged us in our past lives. That hurt, can be passed down through all of our lifetimes. And then we meet again those people that we had, those relationships with, that kind of traumatic, relationship. And then we meet them again and again, we get hurt and all that. So karma is not necessarily that we're being punished, it's just an energetic baggage. It's just unresolved. Okay, so it's just something that is unresolved from our previous lifetimes.
Yes.
Yeah, I think
That
that's
makes
really,
sense.
yeah, it's really important, isn't it? Because people have a negative connotation towards karma, don't they? And when you can, it's all about, perspective shift and your mindset shifts, isn't it? When you can just kind of see it as it's just cause and effect, isn't it? This has happened, and balance as well. I think it's always, it just has to balance out, doesn't it? You have to, this has happened in this past life with this person, and we need to rebalance it and hopefully clear it and move past it. But it doesn't have to be an awful thing, and it doesn't have to be a punishment. It's not, if you see it as a punishment, I think it's really difficult to try and move through it and work through it, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. No, it's not. It's definitely not a punishment. It's simply an energetic baggage. And this is what we as past life regression therapists and hypnotherapists and timeline therapists were trying to do. We're trying to get rid of that baggage, basically.
Yeah, and this is, I mean, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I think you can absolutely, I know I have kind of gone back and done some past life healing on my own without a facilitator. It absolutely can be done. But I think it's almost been, when mine have happened, they've been spontaneous. It's happened without me necessarily trying to. And I really do think there is something about having someone guiding you and facilitating for you, isn't
absolutely.
there?
Yeah, I also find that it's almost like healers need their own healers.
Yeah.
I find that very accurate. I've met many healers and therapists that have their own therapists and healers, because it's much more powerful when someone guides you through the process. I mean, I try to guide myself, like you were saying. I sometimes imagine myself talking to myself in the sessions, but it's always, best if you have someone to guide you through the process. Yeah. And also because it's so much safer as well. I mean, we can do this, but other people, they were thinking, oh, maybe I can try this on my own. I was like, no, that's not safe for you to do that.
Yeah.
You need someone who can know where to guide you, where to stop you, what is real, what is not, because sometimes we have mental constructs and blockages. Our minds don't really show us the truth. It might show us like an illusion or a fake answer. I usually spot fake answers. Sometimes it happens. So they give me a yes or no answer, and I know that's from your conscious mind. That's not from your. Let's try again. And then it's like the other answer. Yeah.
Oh, you can tell.
Yeah, I can tell, because you can tell when it's even in their tone of voice, in the way they answer, when they're hesitant as well. Oh, I'm not sure, maybe it's a yes. It's like, no, this is from your conscious mind. You don't think the answer. Your unconscious knows right away. Give me the answer right away. Yes or no,
Yeah.
That's how I know it's
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what, it's hard to do that with yourself, isn't it? Because you start overthinking and your conscious mind starts coming in. Whereas, like you said, it needs to be quick fire. You need to have someone to ask you those questions so you can, you don't have time to think about it. That's the benefit, isn't it? And like you said, I think that's an important point. We don't want to scare people away from looking and doing past life stuff on their own. But I do agree with you. I think I spoke about it on podcast before, but I had this kind of spontaneous remembrance of a past life, and it was so visceral. I was just sat at my kitchen table having a coffee, and it was so visceral, and I felt all the emotions, and it was, it was really, there was a lot of anxiety and fear in it. But because I knew that that's what it was a past life, and I could separate, because I have the skill, and I could separate between what was real now and what was something from the past, I was able to process it. But if I thought at the time, if this happened to me and I didn't have any knowledge of this, I would have had a panic attack. I would have thought I'd gone crazy. I would have freaked out, because it was really, really intense.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I had those past life recollection moments in a spontaneous way as well. When for example, I had visions of letters that I've written, and I saw my signature and my past life name. It was
Wow.
Claire, by the way, in my previous life. That was the life before this one. I was in France. Everything was very vivid, you know, and I've had spontaneous images and insights, like you're saying,
Mhm.
into my past lives. But exactly like you're saying, it happened, you know, once I knew about past lives, I was doing this work, because if it would have happened before, I would have said, well, it's just my imagination, just like this, dismissing them just like that, you know? Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking that when you were talking as well, and then you've just said it, because it's so true. I think that probably a lot of people who aren't in the world of past life regression or aren't familiar with it, I bet so many people listening have had things pop into their mind where they thought, oh, I feel like I've been in this country before in another life. You know, we say it, but they don't actually believe it. And what I would say and urge people to think is, if you have that feeling, if you have a little nudge, trust it, because it can't hurt. And if you go with it, so many times, like in the early days, when I would just have this thought of, you know, I used to get an image of being in America in the kind of like 1600s, and it kept popping in, and I just allowed it rather than dismissing it like I would usually do. I just allowed it, and I gained more and more access to it until I finally had like a full-blown memory, and it was really relevant to the time for something that I was trying to work through. Now, if I'd have dismissed that, I wouldn't have broken that pattern. So I think that's so important.
Yes, absolutely. And I have to say, before actually, you know, living my karma, so to speak, and finding some karmic connections, well, they found me really in my life. Well, when I was 19, it first happened. I have a lot of karmic ties with France. So that's when a lot of my karma, you know, started to unfold. But before that, I was, for example, doing radiesthesia. Again, someone in the south of France told me how to do radiesthesia. He taught me. Well, radiesthesia is basically working with pendulums and charts, measuring the energy field. It's also measuring the karma that you have left, funny enough. Like, he taught me how to do that before I actually had a lot of knowledge of my past lives. So when I was like measuring my karma, like through all of my spiritual work, it was going down, but then it stopped at one point, I remember, around like 20 or 15% or something. It just wasn't going down anymore. So, you know, that was really what I had to look into. You know, that was the karma that really had to unfold for me. So at that point, I really didn't believe much in past lives. I have to say, I wasn't a person who really believed in past lives. At one point, I actually believed I really had a blank slate. That's how I felt. I felt like my life was just a blank slate. I felt like I could just do whatever I wanted in this life and manifest whatever I wanted, like completely free of whatever happened before, which is so untrue. Now I know it's so untrue because of all the experiences I had. So I wasn't the type of person to believe in past lives until I started to have those experiences that I could not explain. I had those karmic encounters that really messed up my life, you know, like really shook my life. And then I started to do the past life regression work. Then I've seen my past lives and I was like, oh my God, so much of my life is and has been affected by my past lives. It's just unbelievable. But when I was until about the age of, I think, maybe 24, 25, I really did not believe in past lives much.
Yeah, it's so funny, but I was the same. I was very like, I mean, I didn't, but I did. Because I think I came into this world saying that I was burned at the stake as a witch. Like, like literally from a small child, and yet somehow I convinced myself in my teenage years and adulthood that past lives didn't exist. It makes me chuckle now. But I don't know whether this is a difficult question, but from the past life regressions that you've done, or the timeline therapies that you've done that have gone into past lives, have you seen any particular themes that stand out that people tend to bring through from their past lives into this life that you see quite often that you are helping people break?
I mean, every case is different. I've seen so many different types of karma, you know. Sometimes, to be honest, I even went into more spiritual sessions, meaning I went with some people just not because I wanted. Obviously, their unconscious takes them there, and then they tell me all those things. And okay, interesting. It actually got them even before the incarnations on Earth, with some of them. So if some people are familiar with the concept of star seeds, I've worked at star seeds as well. Very interesting sessions. But most people really, they have those traumas that are very kind of, popular and common, so to speak, the abandonment and rejection type of trauma. So yes, it comes from past lives and generational timelines, not just necessarily from past lives, but also from generational timelines. So maybe one of their ancestors, experienced something traumatic, in their life, and they carry this wound, and this was transmitted through cellular memory. So it was passed down. And it's interesting because when they actually see their ancestors, it's almost like they see themselves in that ancestor, because the resonance, the energetic resonance, is so powerful that they almost feel like they're in that person's shoes. It doesn't matter if it's the same sex or opposite sex, a man or a woman. They feel what that ancestor feels. Is the exact same feeling, is the exact same charge.
This is and you've just kind of gone on to the topic that I wanted to go on to next. So before the podcast started, we were speaking about ancestral kind of like trauma and cellular like memory. Really love to dive deeper into that, because I feel like it's really coming up for me at the moment, and we've been speaking a lot about it, haven't we? And I think it's really relevant to people, because I do think at this point, especially kind of our generation, I really feel like we've come here to be the cycle breakers, and we're doing a lot of work breaking the generational trauma, aren't we? So I think it's so relevant to people listening right now. So could you just kind of like really kind of go into it a bit more about what is cellular memory and what is ancestral trauma, and how is it affecting us, and how can we break it? How can we stop it to help ourselves and our ancestral lines? Backwards and forwards, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, so cellular memory. So basically our cells are made of energy. We are made of energy. The atom is made of energy. That's just quantum physics. So also for people who know about epigenetics, you know that you get certain traits in your DNA from your ancestors. They might manifest, they might not manifest, but according to triggers, so environmental triggers, this is epigenetics, this potential in our genes, it can manifest basically. So this is what ancestral trauma is, and cellular memory. We carry in ourselves, in our very own DNA, this information from our ancestors through the DNA, through the bloodline, through the energy of the cells that is transmitted, and so on. So yeah, there's just this energetic signature, this information that we carry through our genes from the ancestors. This can include emotional charge and unresolved trauma, mental patterns, behavioral patterns, all of this.
Yeah, thank you. And also, I just want to say we have actually done an episode on ancestral healing and epigenetics. So you can go back and have a listen to that in more detail if you kind of want to understand that more. But so I'm so curious. So for people who are sat here listening now and thinking, okay, fine, so I need to do some ancestral healing, I have an understanding of epigenetics, like how can they go about connecting with their ancestors or doing the healing around their ancestral line to help them, to help themselves, but also to obviously break that ancestral trauma? What do they do?
Well, the basic approach, as you know, as well as a hypnotherapist, is to work with the subconscious and the unconscious. You can't really, use the conscious mind in any way to change the things, because they are an imprint in our bodies, in our very own DNA and cells, which is connected to the unconscious mind. It is part of our consciousness. The unconscious, as you know, is also responsible for our breathing and the heartbeat and everything. It is also responsible for what activates in an unconscious way through epigenetics in our bodies, in our DNA. So working with the unconscious is key. Now, how do you work with the unconscious? Obviously, well, the best way, obviously, is hypnotherapy, because that just goes straight, to the point. So I don't know any better way of healing those things than working with hypnosis, with regression, and timeline therapy, for example, because they really open your unconscious up to reveal the information that you have there that might actually sabotage you. And you don't really know where you're being sabotaged. And it can show you, what is the unconscious? It is the part of us that isn't conscious, right? And we cannot access the unconscious through introspection. This is a very important detail to mention, because you can't just meditate or, just introspect or something and access the unconscious and change it. You can open yourself up to a more relaxed, brain state. For example, into the alpha brain waves, the theta brain waves, and so on. But what do you do next? You need to know how to work with the unconscious, and only someone who is trained in working with the unconscious can do that. So this is the safest way and the best way to change this information.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think there's only so much you can start working out on your own, because your conscious mind, and I know, because I'm speaking from experience as someone who is trained to be able to do it as well. When I try and do it myself, I get so far, but then my conscious mind just comes into it, and it's like you hit a brick wall, isn't it? Because you realize you're starting to kind of try and work it out logically, and there's nothing logical about it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So all of this, the key is the unconscious mind, to work with the unconscious so that you can access whatever is in your cells, even, that kind of information from your ancestors. You can actually show you where it comes from, tell you that it comes from that place. And also you can change that information in the unconscious, only for the unconscious.
Yeah, and that's a really important point as well, isn't it? Because when you're using hypnotherapy or past life regression, you're not just accessing the information, but then you're actually you're going a step further, and you're rewiring the mind, or you're changing those subconscious patterns that you have to do in that unconscious state, because it's like that's how you enter the operating system of your brain, really, isn't it? In that unconscious state, that's where you can do the reprogramming, literally reprogram the code, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And even, when people say about working with thoughts and emotions, changing your thoughts and emotions, this is actually what I'm writing about in my third book, about consciousness, is the fact that not all thoughts are the same. Not all emotions are the same. There's levels. So there's levels of consciousness, and there's levels of thoughts, levels of emotions. We have the surface thoughts and the surface emotions, and then we have the core thoughts, the core emotions, the deeper ones. So these are the ones that are in our subconscious and unconscious. So when we want to make lasting changes, or even manifest, because, the law of attraction is like so popular these days, this concept of manifestation. So the best way is to work with the core emotions and thoughts, not the conscious ones. You don't really achieve much by working with the conscious ones. You don't really go far with them, because our core information, our core consciousness, and the information that we have, the most important one, 80% of it is in the subconscious and in the unconscious. Okay, so we have to work with our core emotions and core thoughts.
Okay, so when you say the core emotions and core thoughts, if people were listening now and thinking, well, what are mine? How do I figure that out? Obviously, I mean, I know that they could go to a hypnotherapist and they could, we could obviously help with that. But is there anything that you think, like in your opinion, or maybe that you've done for yourself, that people could do on their own at home without having to go and see someone, maybe even just to start it off, to help them kind of gain access to those core emotions?
Yeah, I mean, you can access the subconscious to some degree when you are in that alpha brainwave state, or if you do a deeper meditation, for example, you go into the theta brainwaves, and then you access more of your subconscious. So you can do, for example, some guided meditations, and that would help reveal some information in your subconscious and change it. Obviously, when you do meditation and when you go through this relaxation processes, because this is a deeper relaxation, a deeper state of the mind, when you are, relaxed, the relaxation is so important actually to accessing your subconscious and unconscious. So whatever gets you in this relaxed state, it opens up your subconscious mind. That's when the subconscious is susceptible to change, basically to new information, to new programming, so to speak. So people can work in that way. So through meditation, listening to music that can rewire their brain waves, their mind. There's a lot of different frequencies actually out there available. So different hertz for different purposes. So for example, opening the heart, or releasing, different triggers or patterns. There's those frequencies that exist out there for music. They're very powerful, actually. So yeah, people can work with that. Also, what I would say, me being a spiritual person, I've studied metaphysics and I taught metaphysics for many years. And with all the experiences I had, I would say that if people do some kind of spiritual practice, that is also very powerful. That actually changes your subconscious and unconscious in ways that you don't really know how. You don't even really know how it works, but it does work. Because we are consciousness. Consciousness is energy, emotions. Emotions are energies in motion, right? So everything is flowing and changing in this world. When we do certain type of ritual work, when we do certain type of, for example, I did the Munaiki rites for some time, which are shamanic rituals, shamanic ceremonies. All of this kind of practices, they change your energy field. They change your consciousness. They open up something in you so that you are more aware, and they plant the seeds for something new. So yeah, these are some practices.
Love that.
I totally agree with you. I think
Yeah.
that's why I started bringing the spiritual kind of aspect, because I kept it quite separate, my hypnotherapy and my spiritual side. But it felt wrong in the end, because I felt like I was only doing, helping them with half the work, because I know how much, doing the spiritual work really does. It can shift things so much quicker than trying to do the kind of digging out of the healing work. Obviously, there's a place for both. But I do think that when you do the spiritual work and you work on like the heart opening, and what I see it as is, when I say spiritual work, I see it as remembering who we are, getting back to like who we truly are. And I think that when you start doing that work, remembering who we are actually knocks away all of these kind of, beliefs that we work on about abandonment and we're not worthy, because when you remember who you are, they don't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what I see, as it.
Mm.
And I think that they both come hand in hand. I do think that if you can go on the spiritual journey as well as doing this kind of, healing your subconscious, behavior patterns, I think it supercharges it, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it raises your consciousness states, it raises your vibration, and raising your vibration through the mind's point of view is really accessing deeper parts of your mind, subconscious and unconscious. So that's what spiritual practices do. And like I said, they plant, this positive intentions. Also, when you are in those states and you hold a specific intention, your unconscious starts to work on it. So yes, absolutely, they help. Also, different types of magic, what people call magic, there's a lot of practices these days, it's become so popular. Oh, I'm a witch, I'm doing Wicca, I'm a witch, I'm working with the elements, whatever. So, being a witch, so to speak, it's just practicing a form of spirituality which manifests in the world. So you can do rituals for certain intentions, and they do work. They really do work. This consciousness, it's energy. So that can change your consciousness to your reality. Also, I think people have to know what to work on, because I see people being a bit chaotic in the way they approach things sometimes. I think people need to first know themselves and what they want to manifest and what they need to heal. Because sometimes I see people, they want to manifest something, they want to achieve something, but it's just a block again and again and again, no matter what they do. This is because there's usually, again, a block in their past lives on a generational timeline. They have no idea about that. So in some cases, you might do those rituals, but they might not really fully work because of this. I believe everything is a journey of unfolding. So we all have this journey of revealing and awakening and unfolding who we are, what our blockages are, what our karma is. I think this is the most important aspect of life. Like I said, I thought, I have a blank slate. Many people think that, but it's actually not like that. It's not the case. So, yeah.
Oh, it's amazing, isn't it? How this is all coming about now. How so many people are getting onto this. You can feel it, can't you? You can literally feel it raising the vibration of this two world split that people keep talking about, isn't it? Like going into these two different worlds within one world.
Yes, absolutely. So I've seen so many people awakening to, spirituality and alternative therapies and so on in the past, decade even, I've seen friends, from school that, were not interested at all in this kind of stuff. Now they're all going for, to therapists and alternative medicine, and they're interested in spirituality and crystals all of a sudden. And I'm like, wow, people are really changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's such a great thing as well. But I think then it can be really overwhelming, can't it? Then you get into this world and you have people talking about all these different types of healings and all the things you have to do to heal and, sort your trauma out. And it can be a little bit like, oh, where do I start? And you feel like you've gone wrong before you've even got started. But
that's why I liked it when Christina said about doing any kind of spiritual practice.
Yeah.
It's just going to get you into that mindset, isn't it? It's all working. Just finding what one. Yeah.
And from there, it's like a domino effect. It just unfolds. Once you start the spiritual journey, as people call it, the spiritual journey, it's actually a journey of knowing yourself and revealing who you really are and your past baggage, of course, what you need to know and heal and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that. And I just wanted to add another thing, because you gave so many, thank you. You gave so many kind of things that people can do to start digging in. And I kind of just want to add as well, journaling, because I find journaling is really powerful, because it's like, channeled writing, whatever you want to call it. You definitely get into, when you start writing and you're in the flow, you're definitely in a state of hypnosis in that part as well. And I've had some of my biggest breakthroughs when I've hit a wall and I've thought, I know there's something subconscious here. I can't reach it. I'll get the journal out, and it's always good to have some kind of prompts, as in a question that you're answering, just to get you going, I think. And then you'd be surprised when you start writing without actually wanting it to make sense or thinking about what you're writing, so many answers from your subconscious will come out onto the page. And you think,
yes,
that's where it is.
yes, absolutely. Yeah, journaling is another way to open up the subconscious. Exactly. Like any method really where you are introspective, I would say. Anything that gets you, just you and yourself, really. That could even be sometimes a walk in the park, in nature. Just, being on your own and, being in nature. And that can actually open up your mind, your thoughts. Anything really that gets you in touch with yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And then another thing kind of related to what you were saying with the spiritual part of it, opening to the spiritual part. What I've also found really helpful, and I bring the spiritual in with the subconscious, and it's like talking to, to my guides or my spirit team. I'll kind of pose a question to them and show me what blockage, what blockage I need to know about here. What is stopping me from, X, Y, Z. And I know, so I trust that my spirit team will drop in answers to me. I know how they do it. I know, like with the synchronicities, I know they guide me to places, and I trust that. But I also know from a subconscious point of view, my subconscious wants to answer that question. I have given it an instruction. My reticular activating system has gone online, and it's now going to find the answer to that question and show me the blockages. So I almost feel like I'm coming at it from two angles. And I find that again helps me access a lot of the subconscious stuff that I'm not truly aware of. You have to have patience, and you have to know that it's going to come to you over. It's almost like it builds a bigger picture, does it? I don't know whether you've done this, but it's like you get breadcrumbs or little pieces of the puzzle, and eventually they form a bigger picture if you can be patient and trust, and then you have your answer there.
Yes, absolutely. Because when I've seen my past lives, it was like a puzzle. So literally putting bit by bit puzzle, I could not see the whole picture at first. I had some images that were like, oh, wow, and then I've started to see more and more. I've actually done, my own journey, because as you are saying, it's best when someone guides you when you're working with someone. On my own journey, it started in 2020 when I started to see really heavily my past lives, because I was trying to sort out a specific situation in my life and find answers for that situation. So that's where it started. And I've done the work with the medium as well. So she's seen basically like pictures, like movies of this past lives I've had. I've seen them as well, and it was so similar. It was literally saying bits and pieces. We put the puzzle together. More and more information was coming through every time. is just absolutely fascinating, because you can't really see everything at once, obviously. You might see fragments, but to really understand the whole picture, like you're saying, yes, you need to do the work properly.
Yeah. I think people always want a quick answer. We expect a quick answer, and we expect to have the whole picture downloaded to us all in one go on a plate with a bow. Then there you go. But it very, very rarely works like that, doesn't it? And I think once you can understand and trust, and it's just, we have to learn. This is a whole new way of experiencing the world and understanding ourselves, isn't it? We're kind of learning like babies again. And
exactly.
yeah, and once you know what to expect, and once you realize how it comes to you, it becomes much easier, doesn't it, to make sense of it?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it is, it's said that 90% of our lives are run by the unconscious mind. So just think about that. Like, the mind is so little in comparison to the unconscious mind, to what isn't conscious, basically, what we're not aware of. That what comes from our past lives, ancestral timelines. It is a journey. And like you're saying, people sometimes want a quick fix. I might get people that ask me, oh, well, how many sessions? Can you do it in one session? And I'm like, well, we can try do the most of it in a session, but usually you can't really do everything in one session. It is absolutely impossible to, heal everything in one session. You can heal a part of it, maybe. Yes, you can do that with online, just a part of it is gone. But then, it's a puzzle, like you're saying.
Yeah. And I think as well, you saying that, it just kind of makes me think you need integration time with this work as well, don't you? Because we tend to want it all fixed right away, like we said. But with this work, you definitely need to have integration time to work through it, to understand what you've just kind of, been through, and to make the changes, because it's no good just knowing it. You have to embody it and integrate, don't you? So then you can go on to the next layer, because it is definitely layers, isn't it? And you think you've cleared it, and then you just realize, oh, that was just one part, that was one layer, now we go on to the next. And it's frustrating, but
absolutely, there's layers of trauma, there's layers of healing, layers in our consciousness, and I think everything happens at the right time as well. So, for example, I've recently had a client, I've worked with him for about a year, but only now he has seen where some of the things that he has come from after he's met his twin flame. So his very, very karmic connection, karmic relationship. Before meeting this person, he could not access those memories fully. And now, I was saying, like, wow, this is amazing. Now that you've met her, like, your mind was resisting. Before you actually met this person, your mind was not allowing you to go there. And now it actually allows you to go there. It's just amazing.
That's fascinating.
Isn't it?
That's really fascinating. And you're so right with the timing as well, because I've had so many things where when people book in for the past life regression specifically, every time something will come up, it's like the universe or their subconscious, their higher self, whatever you want to call it, it sabotages the session date and makes us postpone it. And every time, without fail, when we actually do get to the session, we've realized that something happened in between the time we postponed it and the time that the session happened, that if that hadn't have happened, they would have had a completely different session and they wouldn't have got what they needed from it. So I do think that with the past life regression specifically, but everything, timing is so key, and we need to remember this so we can have patience and we can trust that everything is working out, in perfect timing, and we can't rush it.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with that. That's why everything is a journey, and we need to be on this journey and be patient, with it.
Yeah, amazing. So before we go, is there anything else that you would like to, with all the work that you do, is there anything that you'd really like people to kind of know, understand, or start working on to help them in their kind of healing journey or spiritual journey?
So first of all, I really wanted to understand, like I said before, when we're really not a blank slate, and we all carry a lot of information in our bodies, in our cells, in our consciousness, from before birth. So whether that is the womb, whether it is ancestral past lives, we all have an energetic imprint that we are already born with into this world. If there are certain things that they don't understand and they can't explain, is probably that's why that's where it comes from. Also, working with the conscious mind has a lot of limitations. It will only take you so far. So my advice for people is to really try and access their subconscious, their unconscious, work with those parts of themselves so that they can actually make long-lasting changes and really go to the root of what they want to change and experience and explore. And I would say, about connections, because I've touched on twin flames, many of our present connections, they're not coincidences, they're not hazards. We meet many people that we are connected to on an energetic level, on a soul level, and through karma, through this energetic baggage, this information that we carry into this lifetime. Many encounters are karmic. They're meant to be, they're meant to happen for a reason. So everything, I would say, is for a reason. Everything has an information, a specific charge. We have, our minds have. And also, one thing I want to add, I think I didn't touch on, but it's very important. We can influence the outside world, of course. We can influence others, and others can influence us as well. So there's again, a two-way system. We can be influenced by the environment, by the macrocosmos, the bigger, wider universe. There's, some people believe, especially in the spiritual field, in the New Age, that you are the center of it all, that, you're so powerful like a god. In some way you are, but I want to tell people that you are not it, like the macrocosm. You are part of it, but you're not it. So we are the microcosm, and there's a whole macrocosm that we're part of. So we can affect that macrocosm, and that macrocosm can affect us. So there's a two-way energetic system that happens. In the same way, we can affect other people energetically, and other people can affect us energetically. So, thinking that you live in this sort of bubble where nothing can touch you, where nothing can really influence you, is really a fake delusional idea, so to speak. So this is one of the things I really want to add, because I think it's important. We are influenced heavily by the environment, but we can also influence quite heavily the environment, especially our own, when it comes to our own timelines and our own karma. So this is what I want to add.
Yeah, and so how does that become relevant? Because I think that's really important what you've just said as well, and I think we do need to understand that. So how would people kind of make use of that information in their everyday life?
So yeah, for example, the first example that comes into mind, just a quick one, is with people that are negative or energetic vampires or toxic karmic connections that we meet. It's good to recognize them. It's good to know that they can have an impact, a negative impact on us, and to cut those connections early on, to know why we've met those people, what kind of karma we have with them, to heal what needs to be healed, and just be aware of this sort of things. This is just an example, it's maybe energetic vampires or a negative karmic connection,
Yeah. And I love that, because again, it's empowering the individual. It's empowering yourself, isn't it? Which is what we're kind of always trying to talk about. It's such a great mindset shift to have, that we all have difficult relationships with people in our lives, whether that's family or people that come in, colleagues at work, whatever. We have difficult relationships, and it's really easy to slip into a victim mentality, isn't it? But when you can use what you were saying in terms of the karma as well, and understanding that you're affecting people's energy and they're affecting yours, you can see it as a way to help you grow. You can look at every single person in your life, whether they're good or bad, and you're like, why are they here? Why have we met again in this life? What am I here to learn? What are they here to teach me? What can I help teach them? What can we get from this? And then we can either go our separate ways, or we can stay the course, or whatever. It's just such a powerful, I think, kind of mindset to have, to help you when you do have difficult relationships.
Definitely.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just having this knowledge, that they are there maybe because of your past lives. And, knowing, for example, like I said, recognizing an energy vampire and knowing how to protect your energy from them. Because, many people get drained, they get drained energetically, emotionally, mentally, and so on from others, just one example. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. Christina, where can people find you and how can they work with you?
So I have 2 websites. I also have a YouTube channel, and I'm on therapy directories. So they can always go to my websites. I'm not sure if we can list them somewhere or,
They'll
for
be
people who are interested.
be in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Amazing. And do you do work online or is it just in person?
So I do mainly online these days, but I also see people in person. For those who want to see me in person, there's some people who actually want to see, to work in person. They feel like they work better in person. So I have this option as well in a central London clinic.
Yeah, and because I think it's really important as well. Like, I don't know whether you find this, but a lot of people ask me, "Oh, does hypnosis still work, or does past life regression still work online?" And I'm like, "Yes, it does. It works. It works wherever. It really doesn't matter, does it? It's just as powerful."
Exactly. If you have good internet connection and we see each other like we talk right now, exactly. Yeah, that's all you need.
Yeah, amazing, brilliant.
Yeah.
Well, we will put all of Christina's details in the show notes, so make sure you go and check that out. And Christina, thank you so much. This has been such an awesome conversation.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Hey guys,
That's it.
that's it for this week. We will see you again soon. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.